Hello there, and welcome back to my channel. Before we begin, take a quiet moment to settle in and let the weight of the day soften. Let your breath find its own calm rhythm. Whether it is night outside your window or an early dawn, allow the noise to drift away, leaving only a still center. Imagine a sky, still young, where the stars are few and scattered like faint sparks, and the darkness feels vast and tender. Around you, the silence of space stretches deep, while threads of light wander slowly, pausing as if searching for a place to rest. Tonight, we drift into the story of the first black hole. It is not a single event, but a wide unfolding, the story of light that flared, of shadows that deepened, and of silence that remained, shaping the rhythm of the universe. What if the very first black hole was not a monster in the dark, but a resting place for fading stars? And what if the spaces we call empty are quietly alive, carrying echoes of that first collapse? Wherever you are now, in a dim room, under a soft blanket, perhaps listening with rain outside, or calm warmth within, we are sharing this moment under the same sky. If you enjoy slow journeys like this, you are welcome to linger a little longer, to follow the flow without hurry, just resting beside the soft glow of the story. So, let your thoughts drift with the quiet pull of starlight, and together we will begin this gentle walk into the tale of the first black hole, moving through it like a tide that remembers its way home. The quiet does not end here. It only drifts onward, folding softly into another shade of stillness. The universe opened like a sea of brightness, a vast ocean of fire and radiance spreading outward in every direction, until even that radiance began to soften, until heat folded into coolness, and the glow of the beginning relaxed into silence. It was as though the cosmos had exhaled, and in the release, the sparks that once rushed outward found a slower rhythm, moving less like a storm and more like a tide settling back into still water. And the breath that had been sharp and urgent became softer, slower, stretching long, like the quiet pulse of a sleeping world. The brilliance did not vanish. It dimmed into something gentler, like embers hidden under ash, warm but calm, bright but subdued, patient in their glow. From within that calm particles, the smallest seeds of matter, drifted toward one another, and where once there had been only scattering, now there was gathering. The joining of these tiny companions was not a loud creation, but a quiet weaving, like threads of mist, curling together in the cool air of dawn. What scientists call atoms, the first simple forms of matter, were not hard or heavy in this newborn night. They were like faint beads of dew, gathering on the edge of a leaf trembling with stillness. And so, the universe began to find texture, a fabric stretched wide, but woven with threads that were light and delicate, threads that shimmered faintly against the vast dark canvas. The space that stretched between those threads was immense, but it was not empty. It was like a room after song, still resonant with silence. The notes no longer audible, yet still present a vibration, folded back into quiet. Within that silence, faint light drifted as though unsure of its path, soft ripples crossing an endless pond of darkness. There was no hurry, no need for rushing, only the slow drift of radiance over immeasurable distances, like the breath of someone who has finally lain down to rest. In the quiet imagination of ancient peoples, Such beginnings were not described with words of science, but with images of myth, for myth carries silence more gently. The Egyptians, watching the dark waters of the Nile and the deep night sky above, spoke of a time when the world rose out of a boundless sea of darkness. From that sea stepped the first god, emerging not with thunder, but with stillness, carrying in his breath the seeds of all that would come. This image, soft and fluid, holds within it a truth echoed by the universe itself, that out of the dark and quiet depths, light and form may rise, and after every rising, they will eventually fold back into rest. The universe lingered in this balance between the fire that had burst forth and the coolness that settled after, between the scattering of sparks and the gentle gathering of dust. And as the balance stretched, it felt less like a beginning and more like a lull, a pause between breaths, as if the cosmos itself were learning how to inhale and exhale in longer, quieter cycles. The great sea of light that once seemed infinite now shimmered with shadows, and in those shadows, the first whispers of structure, the first hints of form began to appear. This was not the roar of creation, but its sigh. It was the moment after the storm has passed, when the air is heavy with stillness and the earth beneath is damp with memory. It was the hush of a great room, emptied of sound, yet still alive with echoes that have not faded, the lull of an ocean that, after crashing against the shore, draws back into itself, gathering, holding, preparing to breathe again. And so, the universe, vast and newly born, lay in its own quiet. The brightness softened into a glow, the particles joined in their slow embrace, and the silence deepened into something steady, like the low hum beneath a lullaby. Out of this stillness, stars would one day flare, and darkness would find its shape. But for now, the cosmos rested, an immense body sinking gently into its first sleep, and the silence lingers, stretching gently into the next breath. Out of the great calm, there came the first lights, fragile and brief, rising from the darkness, like sparks lifting from cooling embers. They were stars, but not yet the countless stars that later filled the heavens. They were the earliest flames, sudden and bright, trembling against the vast night. Each one shone as if it had been born to burn quickly, a torch carried in the hands of the newborn cosmos, lifted high for a moment, then allowed to fade. The sky that had been so empty was no longer bare for these fires, stitched brightness into the fabric of the dark little stitches of gold on endless black cloth. And though they burned fiercely, they were delicate, like thin candles, swaying in an invisible wind. These first stars did not last long. Their brilliance was like a heartbeat, fast and intense. And then the pulse slowed, quieted, and fell still. Their flames folded inward. Their radiance sank back into the silence from which they had come. But their ending was not destruction. It was a return, a release. A sigh exhaled into the night. The energy that once flared outward curled back upon itself like smoke, drawing into the hollow of its own spiral. And within that curling, something unseen began to take form, something that would remain long after the fires had gone out. The stars seemed to vanish, yet in their vanishing, they planted seeds of a darkness more profound than the night that surrounded them. What science names the death of massive stars is nothing more than this soft folding, this quiet giving back. When the burning fuel within could no longer sustain the flame, the heart of the star sank into itself, falling inward as though tired from carrying its own light for too long. The result was not an explosion to fear, but a collapse that whispered of rest. In that rest, a new presence was born, unseen yet steady, the first deep wells of gravity, places where matter curled so tightly that even light, delicate as breath, could not rise again. But even this gravity, this pull, need not be imagined as harsh or violent. It was simply the universe creating resting places, hollows in which the memory of the first stars could sleep. So, the first black holes, though invisible, were companions born from light itself, shaped by the final breath of stars that had burned too brightly. The darkness they held was not emptiness, but fullness, a fullness so complete that it gave no reflection, no echo, only the softness of absorption. To look toward them would have been to look into the most perfect stillness, the kind of stillness where one's own breath becomes the only sound. And in that stillness, the universe itself seemed to hum more deeply, as if finding a rhythm that was both the absence of light and the continuation of it in another form. Ancient minds gazing upward in their own nights told stories that brushed gently against this truth. They imagined flames carried by gods burning in the heavens until they fell back into the waters of the dark. They spoke of torches lit to guide the world, then extinguished when their task was done, leaving trails of shadow behind. In such stories, the cycle of burning and fading was not tragedy, but balance, the same balance the cosmos now carried in its hidden wells of night. And so, the myths whispered softly of stars that came to rest, as if even in their fading, they were still part of the living sky. Thus, the earliest fires, bright and short-lived, gave more than their brief glow. They gave to the universe its first deep shadows, not as threats, but as foundations, quiet spaces that would endure. The black holes left behind were not monsters of darkness, but cradles of memory, silent and unyielding, keeping within them the essence of stars that once had burned, like ashes that hold the shape of a flame. Long after the flame is gone, they became reminders that every burst of light, however fleeting, leaves something behind. And so the night grew layered, both with the shine of stars and with the unseen depth of their absence. The cosmos now carried both torch and hollow glow, and well light and shadow. In that mixture, the rhythm of existence slowed again, as if the whole sky were breathing out. The fires had flared, the fires had faded, and in their fading, the universe sank a little deeper into its first true sleep. The quiet does not end here. It only drifts onward, folding softly into another shade of stillness. Within that depth, there may have been shadows that came before the first stars, shadows so small and subtle that no eye could see them, like grains of dust hidden in twilight. They were not large or bright, but tiny concentrations of gravity, what some imagine as ancient invisible hollows, primordial black holes, delicate pockets folded into the dark soil of space. Each one was like a hidden pocket, a hollow folded in on itself, delicate as a shell tucked beneath sand, waiting without sound. And though no light traced their edges, they drifted alongside the radiance companions to brightness unseen, but always present, like the still roots of trees beneath the meadow. The thought of such seeds is not heavy. It is a quiet imagining of how the universe may have balanced itself even in its earliest breaths. Where light flared, darkness offered its counterpart, and together they moved as if in a slow dance, one giving one, receiving the rhythm, steady the pace, unhurried. The seeds did not disturb the flow. They rested in it, as though darkness itself were offering places for light to pause. Their presence was not absence, but balance, not loss, but rest, the kind of rest that comes at the end of a long day when the body folds gently into sleep. Ancient voices once spoke of such balance, though in the language of myth rather than science. In Greece, there was Nyx, the goddess of night, who was said to walk alongside the dawn. She did not vanish when the morning came. She lingered quiet and profound, reminding all that day and night brightness and shadow were never apart. Her presence in their stories was not fearsome, but inevitable, a soft counterpoint to the rising sun. And so, the old tale mirrors what the universe itself seemed to whisper, that even in the first bloom of light, there must have been places for darkness, small and invisible, yet always near. The invisible seeds, if they were there, traveled unnoticed through the tides of creation. They carried no flame, no sparkle, no color, yet they shaped the flow in subtle ways, bending paths of light like gentle currents beneath water. A photon, that smallest breath of brightness, would drift as if leaning slightly toward one of these unseen hollows. And though the photon continued on the curve of its path, was the quiet signature of the seed. Such bending was not loud or violent. It was soft like wind brushing tall grass, leaving only a trace of movement in the stillness. No one has ever seen these seeds directly. They remain a thought, a possibility, a whisper of what might have existed, and yet the idea of them feels natural, like the hush between two notes of a song, or the pause between inhaling and exhaling. Just as sleep is part of the rhythm of life, so too might these pockets of darkness have been part of the rhythm of the cosmos from its earliest hours. The thought is gentle, not urgent, and it settles the mind the way a quiet night settles the earth. The night sky, when looked at, now holds countless stars, but it also holds this deeper possibility that between the points of light, there may have always been these older companions, invisible and patient. They do not demand attention, for their nature is to remain unseen, but they are woven into the background, like threads of shadow in a tapestry of gold. Their quiet companionship suggests that the universe is never only one thing. It is both brilliance and stillness, both shining and hidden, both awake and asleep. And so, the invisible seeds are not signs of absence, but of gentle balance. In them, one may hear the soft hum of the cosmos, learning to breathe evenly, to hold both light and darkness in its vast body. They remind us, even without being seen, that the first journey of the universe was never only about burning or shining, but also about resting, folding inward, and keeping memory in silence. They are not monsters in shadow, but the quietest kind of cradle, holding within them the essence of beginnings tucked away where no eye can disturb them. Thus, the invisible seeds drift on companions of the stars, unseen, yet essential, like the dark soil that allows roots to take hold, like the night that makes the morning possible. And in their presence, the universe rests a little deeper, breathes a little slower, and sings more softly the lullaby of its own first sleep. The flow of silence carries onward almost without notice, as though one moment has quietly leaned into the next, unbroken and calm. In the wide expanse of the early universe, the great stars that had flared so brightly began to drift toward their endings, not with sudden violence, but with the slow weight of exhaustion, like flames that have burned too deeply into themselves. Their light, once sharp and radiant, softened as the fuel within grew thin, and the brilliance that had lit the vastness began to fade. It was as though a long candle, tall and luminous, had reached the final stretch of its wax, the flame bending low, trembling faintly, before lowering itself into darkness. The stars were immense, but even immensity has its rhythm, and the rhythm now was one of decline, a gentle ebb that returned fire to quiet. As the glow dimmed, the heart of each star began to sink, folding inward under its own gravity, that quiet pull that shapes the very pattern of space. Gravity can sound like a weight, but here it was only a gathering, a drawing in, as if the star were curling up to rest after a long labor. The outer light drifted away, scattering into the surrounding night, while the core grew denser, quieter, until it slipped beyond visibility. What remained was no longer a star, no longer a torch in the dark, but a well of stillness, a hidden hollow, where even light could not rise again. Yet this was not an ending to fear. It was a resting place, a deep pool of silence formed by the star's final exhalation. The universe absorbed this change in its unhurried manner, allowing the fading of stars to become part of its slow breath. Where once brightness had been, now there were deep shadows, not as absences, but as pauses, like the rests between notes in a song. These pauses gave the sky a new texture, punctuating the canvas of light with soft hollows, places where the gaze could fall and find quiet. And within those hollows, the first black holes, as they are now called, came into being, not as monsters, but as gentle inheritances, the natural consequence of stars releasing their light and folding back into themselves. One might imagine the death of a star as thunder, yet the image that fits more truly is that of a sigh, long and drawn, echoing into space like a fading breeze. The collapse of the star's heart was not a shout, but a silence deepening, a candle smoke curling upward after the flame is gone. The universe did not grieve. It only shifted, exhaled, and accepted the change, as dusk accepts the vanishing sun. For every brilliant spark that disappeared, a new form of stillness emerged, a well of quiet that reminded all of the cyclical nature of creation. Ancient minds, though they had no words for black holes, carried images that mirrored this rhythm. They spoke of gods who carried fire in their hands, only to let it sink back into the night when its journey was complete. They told of breaths that shaped the sky, inhaling and exhaling worlds, with darkness following light, and light returning after darkness. Such stories, woven in myth, are like soft shadows of the scientific truth that stars too have their rest, and their fading is part of the balance that keeps the cosmos whole. So, the gentle death of stars was not an end, but a turning, not a loss, but a deepening of the night. Each vanished flame left behind a presence more profound than its light, silent chamber where the memory of radiance was kept safe. The black hole was this chamber, invisible yet enduring, as though the cosmos itself had created secret places to hold the echoes of brilliance. These places did not shine, but they carried a weight of memory, like a closed book still heavy with untold words, or an ember that, though dark, remains warm in the palm. In time, the heavens would carry many such wells, each marking where a great fire had once burned. Together, they shaped the balance between brightness and shadow, teaching the universe how to breathe more evenly in cycles of light and rest. And so, when the stars folded into themselves and disappeared, they were not gone. They had only changed form from flame into silence, from light into rest, from a burst of life into a pause of eternity. The image that remains is simple: the universe taking a long, quiet breath. The flames flare, the flames dim, and when they dim, they do not vanish into nothing, but fall into stillness. The fire has gone out, and what lingers is the silence of its memory, a pause stretched wide across the night, as gentle and necessary as sleep itself. The silence drifts onward, not as a change, but as the same quiet breath, continuing, leaning gently into a new shade of stillness. When the first black holes emerged, they did not come as endings, but as continuations, as natural parts of the cosmic rhythm folded into the fabric of existence. They were not intrusions, not disruptions, but companions, the dark notes that made the harmony of the universe more complete. Their presence was soft and unobtrusive, like shadows at the edge of firelight, reminding the cosmos that brightness is never alone. Each black hole was a pause, a dot of silence on the endless sheet of the sky, and in that pause the universe seemed to rest more deeply, as though soothed by its own balance. To think of a black hole is to imagine gravity, the quiet pull that gathers and holds, yet gravity here can be pictured not as a weight, but as an embrace, as if the universe were curling around itself in gentle rest. These wells of stillness, though invisible, gave shape to the dance of stars, guiding them without sound, turning their paths as softly as wind shapes the drifting of leaves. They were not frightening voids, but resting places, hollows within the cosmic fabric, where energy and light could find repose. And so, their presence became essential, not as absence, but as part of the steady breath of creation. The night sky, when seen from the ground, offers a fabric of points, stars glittering like threads of silver on velvet. Yet interwoven with those lights are the darker places, the unseen companions, black holes, scattered like faint stitching in black thread. Their pattern is subtle, not drawn for the eye, but felt in the way galaxies curve, in the way stars circle patiently around what cannot be seen. These quiet centers remind the universe that not all things must shine in order to exist. They are like the silence between waves or the darkness between heartbeats, necessary spaces that make the rhythm whole. Ancient stories often spoke of night as a companion today, not as its enemy, but as its partner. In the hush of Greek myth, Nyx, the goddess of night, walked with the dawn, never gone, but always moving alongside the light. This old tale drifts near the truth of the cosmos, for the universe itself has always carried both flame and shadow, the flare of stars and the quiet wells that follow. Darkness has not opposed light, but balanced it like two wings of the same bird carrying existence on a single unbroken flight. The first black holes were this balance made visible, or perhaps invisible, a reminder that stillness is as real as motion, that rest is as natural as burning. To rest beside the idea of these black holes is to hear the lull of the universe itself. They hum not with sound, but with silence, not with brightness, but with depth, a kind of background rhythm that softens the louder music of stars. Their role is not to consume endlessly, but to shape, to hold, to remind. In their presence, the universe breathes more slowly, its cycles drawn out into longer, gentler arcs. Each black hole can be imagined as a cradle rocking light to sleep holding the memory of stars with quiet care. They are the pauses that let the song of creation stretch into eternity. And so, the first black holes were not a final chapter, but an early verse in the lullaby of the cosmos. They were born from the fading of stars, yet in their birth, they ensured that the rhythm of the universe could continue more balanced, more whole. They dotted the sky like soft punctuation, reminding all that existence itself was not of sudden endings, but of quiet transition cycles, folding into cycles, breaths, flowing into breaths. Without them, the universe would have been less complete, like a song with no rest, like a tide with no return. The image that lingers is gentle black holes as companions dark, yet tender, guiding yet unseen. They are not threats, but partners woven into the living fabric of space. In their company, the universe found its first true balance of light and shadow, brightness and pause flame, and silence. And in that balance there was comfort, a sense that even in vastness, the cosmos could rest, could breathe, could hum softly to itself. Thus, the first black holes arrived not as monsters, but as lullabies, not as voids, but as quiet companions born with the universe and breathing with it. They are the dark notes that allow the music to soothe the soft spaces, that let the rhythm slow the first whispers of the night, teaching the cosmos how to sleep. The silence drifts forward as though the same breath were stretching a little further, unbroken and calm, leaning gently into another shade of stillness. There was a time when darkness was not explained with words of science, but imagined in softer shapes, woven in stories that lingered between dream and waking. The idea of a place where light could vanish was not yet known as fact. It was held instead as a shadow of thought, a seed in the soil of imagination. People gazed at the night sky and wondered what might happen if the brightness of a star could be swallowed, if the shining surface of the moon could be hidden away. They did not name it with terms or laws. They pictured it as a moment of disappearance, a brief silence in the pattern of the heavens. And this imagining was like a whisper, faint but steady, reminding that even light so constant to the eye could one day have its quiet rest. In the long sweep of human nights, myths carried these questions in gentle tones. To the people of India, the eclipse of the moon was not an accident of shadow, but the work of a great serpent, a creature vast and silent, who swallowed the silver disk whole. When the serpent opened its mouth, the light of the moon was lost, and the sky grew darker, as though the very breath of night had deepened. Yet the moon always returned, slipping free from the serpent's hold, and with it came the comfort that nothing was taken forever, only hidden for a time. It was not only of fear, but of rhythm of cycles, of covering and uncovering of light that could be concealed and then restored like the rise and fall of breath in a sleeping chest. The image of swallowing was powerful, but it was also gentle, a reminder that even the most luminous bodies could fold into shadow and then be reborn. In this image lies a reflection of what would much later be called the black hole, though in those early days it was only a suggestion, only a dream of what might exist. The serpent did not destroy, it held. The darkness was not the end of the moon, but a moment when it passed into silence, into stillness, into a pause before shining again. In that pause, people sensed the hidden spaces of the cosmos pockets where light could vanish, not forever, but long enough to remind that light and darkness were companions. These stories passed in whispers beside fires and beneath stars were not far from truth, for the universe itself carries places where radiance cannot escape, places where gravity, that invisible embrace, is so complete that even a beam of light folds back upon itself. But such knowledge came much later. In the beginning, it was enough to imagine, to dream of places where light could rest, to hold in mind the idea that brightness is not eternal, that it may have its intervals of shadow. These imaginings were like seeds planted in the soil of wonder, waiting for centuries to bloom into understanding. The seeds of thought do not grow quickly. They linger, carried in songs and in tales, repeated through generations like a quiet refrain. Each time the moon darkened, the serpent was spoken of again, its meaning shifting, but its rhythm staying true. To tell of swallowing was to tell of balance of light and dark, as partners each arriving in turn, neither lost, neither complete without the other. The serpent's act was not one of hunger, but of reminder, a myth that gave form to the unseen truth that the cosmos holds both radiance and rest. And so the first black holes, though unnamed, lived already in human thought, not as numbers or theories, but as images carried in the breath of myth. They were not feared as monsters, but pictured as pauses, as moments when the sky itself seemed to exhale, letting light sink into silence. In that silence, imagination took root, and what was once only myth became part of the long unfolding of knowledge. Thus, the thought of darkness swallowing light has always been with humankind, stretching back through centuries, carried not in books at first, but in voices, in fireside tales, in the hush of eclipses. Each eclipse was a rehearsal of the idea, a reminder that the sky holds more than brightness, that there are places unseen where light may pause. And with each telling, the seed grew stronger, until one day the language of myth gave way to the language of science, and the seed was recognized for what it was, a glimpse of the hidden balance within the universe. The flow moves on seamless and quiet, as though one breath has stretched longer, carrying everything into a softer shade of silence. For a long time, the universe was pictured as a stage of fixed lines, a structure rigid and unmoving, like a floor laid beneath the stars. But slowly, thought began to bend, and the picture softened, no longer flat, but curved, no longer hard, but supple, as though space itself were woven from fabric rather than stone. In this fabric, weight did not simply sit still. It pressed gently, sinking into the cloth, like a hand resting on soft earth. The image was not of walls, but of ripples, not of edges, but of folds, as if the cosmos breathed, and the very room of existence swayed with its exhale. Such bending gave birth to a gentler vision, one where even light could not move freely if the hollow beneath it was deep enough. Light, once imagined as untouchable and swift, was now pictured as something that could follow the lines of this fabric, turning its path the way a river follows the valley. And when the valley curved downward, into a well too steep, even light so delicate and so constant could be caught spiraling inward like a leaf carried into a whirl of air. What had once been empty, dark, became more than absence. It became shape, it became depth, it became the soft hollow of the universe curling in on itself. This picture of space as something that could bend was not harsh, but soothing, a thought that carried with it the sense of flow. No longer a rigid map of stars. The cosmos was like a great sea, its tides drawn by unseen forces, its surface marked with swells and hollows. To imagine it was to picture a blanket spread wide, dipping gently where weight was placed, rising softly where it was not the whole of it, swaying in quiet rhythm. The stars upon it were like lanterns set upon a calm lake, their reflections bending with each ripple, their light curved by the water's movement. So too in this vision did space bend beneath its burdens, forming valleys invisible, yet present, shaping the paths of all who traveled across it. Where the hollows grew deepest, something new appeared, a silence so complete that even the shimmer of light could not climb free. These places were not edges, but centers, not voids, but wells, quiet depths into which radiance folded and rested. To name them black holes is to make them sound like boundaries, but in this softer imagining, they are more like pauses, like the rests in a song, like the silence between two waves. They are not the end of light, but its transformation, the place where it curls inward and disappears from view, as if lying down to sleep in the arms of the universe itself. In such a vision, darkness is no longer emptiness, but presence, no longer only the absence of stars, but the form of space itself, shaping the rhythm of all things. It is as though the cosmos needs these deep shadows, the way the body needs rest, the way a song needs silence to breathe between notes. The black marks upon the sky are not blemishes, but signatures, signs that the universe is not rigid, but alive, flexing and folding, creating places of stillness as naturally as it creates bursts of fire. And so, the darkness becomes companion, not as threat, but as balance, part of the quiet cycle that keeps the heavens steady. The truth softened into this image is gentle. The cosmos is not fixed, but yielding, not silent stone, but breathing cloth, bending with weight, curving with motion, holding within it wells of rest. To close the eyes and picture this is to feel the universe itself exhaling, the fabric swaying, the lights above drifting with the folds of space. In that picture, there is no need for fear, for the darkness is not empty, but full, not a loss, but a lull, not destruction, but repose. And so, the thought lingers that the shape of the universe is not rigid, but curved, and in its curves lie both light and shadow, both flame and pause. The night sky, with its glitter and its depths, reflects this truth in quiet beauty, each star shining, each hollow unseen, together, composing a balance as soft as the rhythm of sleep. The flow of silence moves on almost without notice, as though one gentle breath has leaned into the next. From what has already unfolded, the stillness leans forward, deepening like the cosmos, drawing in a slower breath. In the wide canvas of the sky, there appeared the subtle trembling of a single star, its light wavering as though caught in a current unseen. To the eye, it looked bright, steadfast in the dark, yet beneath that steadiness was a faint hesitation, as if the star itself were being drawn gently toward a place without form. The shimmer quivered, a thread of gold pulled toward a hidden well, and in that tremor, the watching mind felt the suggestion of a pull beyond sight. The star was not extinguished, not broken, but it leaned its glow, bending as if bowing into the night. And in that bow, the thought first whispered that the darkness was not only emptiness, but a presence with its own quiet gravity. The observation was not loud, not startling, but like noticing a breath falter or a flame lean in the wind. A star that once seemed certain now moved in a pattern that could not be traced by visible hands, as though the fabric of space itself had shifted, tugging the light into its folds. This was the moment when imagination became weight, when the dream of hidden depths pressed gently into certainty. The darkness, long seen as mere backdrop, showed its quiet hand guiding the star, like a tide guiding a boat into deeper water. No violence was felt, only the inevitability of drift emotion, soft as sleep, drawing the eyes closed. To those who gazed upward, the image called forth memory of older stories, for myths often linger near truths unspoken. In the north, there was the tale of Fenrir, the great wolf, who in the end of days would swallow the sun. The vision of the beast was not one of cruelty alone, but of inevitability, a cycle where even the brightest flame is folded back into shadow. To see the star bend toward the unseen was to feel that tale again, retold by the heavens themselves, not with teeth or fury, but with a silence deeper than any myth could hold. It was as if the universe, without words, whispered again, light is not always taken. Sometimes it is simply received by the waiting night. The trembling of the star was thus not a loss, but a revelation, a reminder that the cosmos is not only made of brightness, but also of hollows, of places where brightness comes to rest. The dark companion, invisible yet undeniable, was revealed not through its own shine, but through the quiver of the light it guided. And in that gentle guiding, the truth became clear. Darkness was as real, as light shadow, as present as flame. The star did not vanish at once. It lingered flickering until its path carried it beyond the gaze. Its fading was slow, like the ember of a fire sighing into ash, like the breath of a sleeper deepening into dream. To picture that moment is to imagine the balance of the sky, shifting quietly, one brightness leaning into silence, one star folding itself into rest. It was not destruction, but a soft passage as natural as dusk following day. The black hole, though unseen, was made known in this way, not by revealing itself, but by shaping what surrounded it. The trembling light was its signature, its quiet announcement, written not in sound or blaze, but in the most delicate of movements. And so, through one wavering star, the hidden depths were confirmed, the myth made flesh, the dream given form. The sky, vast and enduring, held this event with patience, absorbing it as part of its unbroken rhythm. For every star that burned, another would fade, and for every fading, there would be the soft creation of shadow. The watchers, turning their eyes to the heavens, now saw not only lights, but also the invisible shapes that guided them, hollows where fire might one day fall. And in that, seeing the night grew fuller, no longer an empty stage, but a woven fabric of presence, both visible and unseen. The moment lingered quiet, but steady, a star trembling, a truth breathed again, a truth revealed through absence. It was enough to remind that even in the silence of the sky, there are voices not of sound, but of motion, not of brightness, but of shadow. The first signs of the black hole were not violent revelations, but whispers, the quiver of light, the soft bow of radiance, the hum of myth echoing across the night. And so, the breath flows on seamless and calm, carrying the silence further into yet another gentle fold of the universe. Almost without notice, the hush continues, one breath sliding gently into the next, the stillness unbroken. At first, the idea of darkness as a real presence brought hesitation for the mind, long accustomed to the comfort of stars, trembled before the thought of something that could not be seen. The night sky, filled with glimmers, had always seemed a map of certainty, each point of light a guide through the vastness. To imagine that within that sky there might be wells of invisibility, places where even light itself could not return, was unsettling in its unfamiliarity. It was like standing at the edge of a misted valley, unsure of what lies beneath the shapes, shifting the depth, unclear, the silence too deep to measure. In those first thoughts, the darkness seemed to demand distance, a cautious step, a pause before belief. Yet slowly, with time and patient watching, the presence of the unseen became undeniable. The stars themselves seemed to whisper of it, bending in their paths, trembling in their light, tracing invisible circles around hollows that were not visible, but that shaped their dance. The more carefully the sky was observed, the more the evidence gathered like dew, small and gentle, yet steady, shining softly in the quiet dawn of understanding. What had once been doubt now began to feel like recognition, the way fog thins beneath the rising sun, revealing contours that were always there. The unseen ceased to feel like a threat and began to resemble a companion, steady in its silence, persistent in its presence. The mind, once unsettled, began to settle into this rhythm, as though realizing that darkness is not always emptiness, but often the pause that gives shape to light, just as breath needs both inhaling and exhaling, just as sleep follows. Waking, so too did the sky reveal that stars and shadows move together in a single, balanced cycle. The black hole, though hidden, was not a disruption, but a natural resting place, a hollow where radiance folded itself gently away. The recognition was not sudden, not sharp, but gradual like mist, pulling back from a lake to reveal the water beneath, still and patient. The image that lingered was simple, a veil of haze dissolving, uncovering a well in the heavens. The well was not frightening, but quiet, a pool of night, drawn so deep that no shimmer could escape. To look upon it was not to see destruction, but to sense a depth beyond sight, a reminder that the universe holds layers of silence as carefully as it holds sparks of light. And in that layered silence, there was comfort, for it showed that even the brightest flame has a place to rest when its journey is done. The movement from doubt to acceptance was itself, like a long breath, uncertain in the beginning, steady in the end. What began as hesitation softened into calm, as though the mind, after struggling against the dark, had finally allowed itself to lean into it, to be carried instead of resisting. In that leaning, there was peace, the same peace that comes when the body lies down after weariness, the same surrender that allows sleep to wash over restless thought. The black hole was no longer imagined as a mouth swallowing light, but as a chamber where light could sleep unseen, but not forgotten, folded into the deeper rhythm of the cosmos. Ancient voices seemed to echo this realization in their stories, though told in symbols rather than in terms of science. They spoke of veils lifting, of hidden depths revealed, of creatures that swallowed the sun or the moon only to let them rise again. These tales, like the mist itself, were not barriers but gentle coverings, offering a softened picture of what was true. The Norse told of Fenrir swallowing the sun, yet even that swallowing was part of a cycle, for light would return, as it always does. Such myths, when laid beside the trembling of a star drawn toward the invisible, felt less like fantasy and more like the universe singing in two voices, one of fire, one of shadow. Thus, the passage from uncertainty to repose became part of the greater lull of the sky, a slow unfolding in which every hesitation softened, every doubt released. What had seemed unfamiliar grew familiar, and what had seemed unsettling became a source of calm, a reminder that not all truths must be bright to be real. Some truths are dark, and yet their darkness is as gentle as night, as necessary, as rest, as natural as the silence between breaths. The universe, wide and steady, now carried within it not only the shimmer of stars, but also the hush of wells unseen, and both together formed a fabric more complete. In this fabric, one could feel not fear, but balance, not loss, but depth, not endings, but places of rest. The black holes, once doubted, now became accepted, even cherished as the soft punctuation in the endless sentence of the sky. And so the breath flows onward unbroken, as though what once hesitated has now settled into a long, quiet exhale, leaning gently into the next stillness. The quiet does not fall away. It simply extends, as if the same breath has paused again, finding another moment of calm. Human thought, once anxious, before the image of unseen wells in the sky began to soften, and in that softening, the darkness itself grew gentler. It was no longer approached with the eyes alone, for the eyes seek only brightness and are unsettled by what they cannot see. Instead, it was approached with the quieter sense of the mind, the part of awareness that listens rather than looks, the part that feels silence the way the body feels breath. In that listening, the darkness revealed itself not as threat, but as presence, a steady companion humming beneath the music of the stars. The mind learned that what cannot be seen can still be known, and what cannot be measured can still be felt. The black hole, once pictured as a devourer, became something different when understood in this way. It was no longer a monster swallowing light, but a resting place for radiance, a cradle where exhausted stars folded into sleep. Its pull, which might have been described as consuming, could instead be imagined as an embrace, a quiet gathering inward, as if the cosmos were holding its own flame in the hollow of its hand. In that embrace, there was no violence, only balance, the same balance that allows the tide to return after its retreat, or the night to follow gently after day. And so, the black hole became a confidant of the sky, an invisible friend moving silently beside the stars. To rest in the thought of such companions was to hear a lullaby sung without sound. The lullaby was not carried by notes, but by pauses, not by melody, but by the spaces between. In every place where light disappeared, silence took its turn, like a verse sung in shadow, answering the verse of brightness. Together, they made a song without end, soft and cyclical, a song that could be felt in the stillness of midnight or in the hush before dawn. The stars shone, the darkness deepened, and in that deepening, there was rhythm, the rhythm of a universe breathing evenly. The presence of black holes began to feel less like an interruption and more like a completion. They were the punctuation of the cosmos, gentle pauses placed within an endless sentence of light. Without them, the sky would have been unbroken, restless and breathless, like words rushing on without silence. With them, the heavens could pause, inhale, and exhale. The rhythm softened into balance. The darkness was no longer an absence to fear, but a reminder that every flame deserves a rest, every glow a place to fold itself away. In that reminder, the universe seemed to lean closer, as though whispering a secret that was not frightening, but comforting. Even the brightest lights need to sleep. The myths of old carried this same truth in their gentle ways. Some spoke of gods who drew night across the sky like a curtain, not to hide the day, but to give it time to rest. Others spoke of creatures that swallowed the sun or the moon, yet always returned them, for the swallowing was never forever. These images, though woven from imagination, echoed the cosmic lullaby, teaching that darkness and light are companions, each incomplete without the other. The black hole, in its quiet invisibility, was simply another name for this companionship, a reminder that even in the farthest reaches of the heavens, the cycle of presence and absence, brightness and silence continued. Thus, humanity learned not only to see but to listen, not only to measure but to rest in the unmeasured. The black hole became a symbol, not of fear, but of intimacy, of a universe that holds its children of fire and gives them sleep when their burning is done. To sense such a truth was to feel soothed, as if the cosmos itself were singing softly to the mind, quieting it, rocking it toward stillness. And in that stillness, the boundary between self and sky dissolved, leaving only the rhythm of breath, slow and steady, echoing the breath of stars folding into night. The chapter folds closed with this lullaby, not as an ending, but as another pause in the long rhythm. Darkness sings without words, reminding that light and shadow are woven together, that every flame has its hollow, every day its night, every note its silence. In this song, humanity is not separate, but included, resting under the same sky that has always carried both brightness and depth. The black hole is no longer feared, but welcomed a friend that hums softly of balance. And in that hum, the universe gathers all things, fire and silence, shining and shadow, into a single cradle, rocking existence with the gentlest hand. The breath lingers long and slow, and in that breath, the first lullaby of the cosmos, is heard the song of darkness, reminding that the universe, vast and eternal, has always embraced both light and night. The stillness leans forward, carrying the breath into another fold of silence, as though one shade of night has deepened into the next. At the center of every galaxy, hidden within the whirl of countless stars, there rests a dark heart, unseen but steady. The spiral arms may glitter with dust and fire, their glow stretched wide like lanterns along invisible roads. Yet at the core lies a silence so complete that no light can rise from it. This silence is not harsh. It is a center of balance, a place where the weight of the galaxy gathers where motion circles endlessly around an unseen well. To call it a black hole is to use the language of science, but to picture it in softer tones is to see it as a still chamber, a pulse of gravity that steadies the swirl of stars. Without this chamber, the great wheel of the galaxy would drift, but with it, the wheel turns with patient rhythm. The Milky Way, the home of our night sky, carries such a heart within its center, a presence quiet and enduring. Though no eyes can look directly into it, its influence can be felt in the way stars orbit, the way gas and dust curve, the way light itself bends and sways in long arcs around the hidden center. It is not a wound in the fabric of the sky, but its anchor, the still point around which everything else revolves. To think of it is to imagine the galaxy as a body, the arms like flowing limbs, the clusters like scattered breaths, and at its center, a heart that does not beat with sound, but with silence. The rhythm of that silence is steady, holding together the harmony of the whole. This heart does not shine, but it shapes the shining. It does not call attention, yet all attention circles it, as though the stars were dancers moving around a partner who remains unseen. Each orbit is a gesture of acknowledgement, a bow to the hidden gravity that draws them close, yet allows them to continue their graceful turns. In this way, the heart of the galaxy is not absence, but presence, not an emptiness, but a gathering, a center where the vastness folds inward. Like the quiet pause at the center of a breath, it is a moment of stillness that allows the rhythm to continue. The thought of such a heart is not to be feared, but to be cherished, for it means that every galaxy, in all its shining expanse, carries within it a still companion. The darkness at the center balances the brightness at the edges. The silence at the core steadies the song of the stars. And in this balance, the universe seems to breathe more evenly, inhaling through the light, exhaling through the dark, the whole of existence rocking gently between the two. The Milky Way itself, stretched across our night sky like a river of silver dust, hums with this rhythm, carrying within it the quiet gravity of its own heart. The presence of the galactic heart has been sensed not only through study, but through imagination. Ancient voices gazing into the band of the Milky Way told of rivers of milk, of paths of gods, of woven cloth across the heavens. They did not name the heart, yet they sensed the center, for they spoke of the sky as though it were alive, as though it carried a pulse unseen. Their myths, soft and flowing, mirrored the truth in their own way, that beneath the shimmer lies a depth, and within the depth lies stillness, and in stillness lies the center that holds all together. To imagine this heart now is to let the mind rest in the thought of a quiet well, vast yet invisible, around which all the brightness of a galaxy leans. It is to picture stars as threads woven around an unseen knot, the fabric held firm by what is not seen, but always felt. It is to hear the lull of space, not in explosions or flares, but in the soft persistence of orbits, each one turning like a breath in the chest of the sky. The heart is not a place of fear, but a cradle where the galaxy's weight is gathered, a reminder that silence can be as essential as light. The Milky Way, with its countless stars, its drifting clouds of gas and dust, its rivers of light across the night, all circle this single heart. And though the heart cannot be seen, it is present in every shimmer, in every turn, in every path traced across the heavens. It is the center that whispers, without words, holding the galaxy in its patient embrace. To rest in thought upon this heart is to rest in the knowledge that even the most immense structures of the cosmos are steadied by silence, by stillness, by the quiet pull of an unseen presence. Thus, the heart of the galaxy is not a void, but a companion, not an end, but a center, not destruction, but balance. It is the breath of the Milky Way drawn inward, held and released again, a rhythm stretched across eons, a lullaby written in the language of orbits and silence. And in that lullaby, one may hear the comfort that the universe vast, though it may be, is held together not only by brilliance, but also by rest. And so the silence leans onward as though the same breath has only deepened, carrying itself into yet another shade of stillness. The rhythm does not falter. It only softens into a new note, as though the silence has tilted slightly, opening another quiet path within the same breath. Not all shadows in the universe are immense. Not all wells are carved into the scale of galaxies. Scattered through the wide fabric of space are smaller hollows, modest and unannounced places where matter folds inward with less weight, but with the same quiet persistence. These are the lesser black holes, born not from the grandeur of galactic centers, but from the quiet passing of stars that were large enough to collapse, yet not so vast as to command the heart of a galaxy. They linger like faint echoes, not loud, not bright, but steady reminders that darkness wears many sizes, and that silence can be both vast and small. Their presence, though hidden, adds texture to the universe, filling its fabric with tiny pauses scattered like seeds across the field of night. To imagine them is to picture stones dropped into water, not boulders that crash with force, but pebbles that fall softly, creating circles that ripple outward, faint yet enduring. Each smaller black hole is like such a pebble, sending waves through the fabric of space waves, not of sound but of gravity, the quiet influence that shapes how light bends and how stars trace their arcs. Though the ripples may seem slight, they travel far, overlapping with others, weaving a subtle pattern into the still pond of the cosmos. The effect is delicate, like the faintest breath stirring the surface of a pool, and yet it remains a reminder that even the most modest of shadows can leave their mark. These smaller companions are not to be thought of as insignificant, for the universe does not measure importance by size alone. Each one is a participant in the quiet balance, an invisible thread woven into the larger tapestry. Their silence joins the silence of the greater hearts. Their gravity adds to the rhythm. Their hidden wells become resting places for light and matter alike. To the eye, they are absent; to the mind, they are elusive. But to the fabric of existence, they are real, shaping paths and pulling gently like unseen hands, guiding the drift of leaves upon still air. They are reminders that not only grand forces matter, the subtle ones too hold the world in rhythm. The thought of these smaller black holes is softened when imagined as lanterns extinguished in the distance. Their light once flared, then folded inward, leaving behind not emptiness but a hush. That hush is not heavy, it is a pause, a small chamber where the memory of burning lingers. Each one is like a whisper in the choir of the universe, barely heard, yet essential to the harmony. Without such whispers, the song would be thinner. With them, it becomes layered deeper, more complete. Ancient voices, though they knew nothing of such objects, carried images that touched gently upon the truth. In some tales, sparks from the heavens were said to fall into the sea, vanishing beneath the waves, only to return later as stars reborn. In these stories, one hears the echo of the smaller black holes, stars that burned fell and then remained hidden beneath the surface of night. They did not disappear entirely. They became part of the cycle, their absence a presence of another kind, their silence a verse within the unending lullaby of creation. The universe does not reveal these companions easily. Their invisibility is near perfect, their signatures faint, revealed only in the way they nudge nearby stars or bend the faint lines of light that pass too close. Yet even this subtlety can be seen as part of their nature, for they are not meant to dominate the eye. They are meant to blend into the background, to remind that the cosmos is not a stage of only brilliance, but also of quiet depths and unnoticed corners. In their humility, they mirror the truth that small silences are as necessary as great ones, that every pause, however brief, allows the rhythm of existence to breathe. To rest with the thought of these lesser shadows is to feel the night sky differently. It is no longer only a canopy of points and vast centers, but also a field scattered with tiny hollows, soft and unassuming. Each hollow is a resting place, each ripple a mark upon the silence, each pause a note. In the endless music, the stars continue to shine, the galaxies continue to swirl, and yet within them and beside them are these modest companions unseen, but vital, shaping the whole with their quiet presence. The hush does not end. It only shifts as though the breath of night has tilted once more, unfolding into a softer depth of quiet. When two of these unseen wells draw near, they do not crash with noise or break the silence with fire. Instead, they circle each other in a patient spiral, their gravity weaving together, until at last they merge into one. In that merging, the universe does not answer with thunder, but with ripples waves that pass through the fabric of space itself, like faint rings, moving outward on the surface of a still water. These are gravitational waves, the invisible tremors of existence, yet they are not harsh. They are soft currents, gliding silently through the cosmos, reminders that even darkness has its music. To think of these waves is to think of a pond stirred by the lightest touch, where circles expand without sound, carrying the memory of the stone that entered. In this way, the cosmos carries the memory of colliding shadows, their union recorded not by light, but by motion, not by brilliance, but by the trembling of space. The ripples move on endlessly, so faint they pass unnoticed, yet they are there, spreading across unimaginable distances, soft and unbroken, like breath shared between sleepers. In the tales of Japan, the sea god Ryujin was said to stir the waters, gently raising waves that spoke in whispers rather than roars. His power was not always in storms, but in the smallest undulations, the subtle rhythms that gave the ocean its voice. This image rests easily beside the picture of black holes, entwined there joining, sending forth not destruction, but a quiet song, a hymn carried on invisible tides. The waves they create are not to overwhelm, but to remind, echoing through the universe, as though the very fabric of space were water moved by an unseen hand. The music of such ripples is not for the ears, but for the quiet sense that feels rhythm without sound. It is the rhythm of the universe breathing the lull between heartbeats, the expansion and contraction of something so vast it cannot be spoken. Each wave is like a note without tone, a vibration that passes through everything, yet disturbs nothing, a lullaby sung in silence. To imagine it is to feel the body sway slightly, as though rocked by a cradle unseen, the whole cosmos moving in time with the merging of shadows. This music does not vanish quickly. It continues passing outward into the long night, as though each collision leaves a signature that the universe carries forever. The ripples spread, becoming part of the background, woven into the quiet hum that underlies all things. They are not interruptions. They are not alarms. They are continuity. The assurance that even in silence there is motion, even in darkness there is song. The stars may burn, the galaxies may turn, but beneath them, like a heartbeat, beneath a dream, these waves move without ceasing. To sit with the thought of this is to feel that the cosmos itself is alive in its stillness, not alive in the way of flesh, but alive in its rhythms, its cycles, its patient flow of breath and rest. The black holes, colliding in silence, become musicians without instruments, their song carried not in sound, but in the trembling of the world itself. And as their ripples pass through the vastness, they turn all of existence into a listener. Every star, every planet, every drifting particle, touched gently by the music of their union. The myth of Ryujin reminds that waves need not be violent to be real, that the gentlest undulation can carry meaning across great distances. So too with these cosmic ripples. They are the ocean's whisper transposed to the scale of the sky, the quiet murmur of two shadows meeting and becoming one. Their song lingers not in volume, but in endurance, spreading onward, folding into the long hush of the universe. The breath of silence leans forward again, carrying with it the faint music of unseen waves, as though the cosmos itself has sighed into another fold of stillness. The quiet that is stretched so far does not pause here. It only deepens, leaning gently, as though one breath has carried into the next, unbroken and calm. In the vastness of the universe, darkness is not absence, but presence, not emptiness, but structure. A shaping hand that works without being seen. It does not blaze like the stars, nor shine like the rivers of light that thread across the night, but its influence is steady, guiding, holding. Around the unseen weight of the black hole, galaxies are coaxed into harmony, their spirals formed not in chaos, but in rhythm, each stream of stars turning with balance. The gravity, though invisible, is like a soft hand cupped beneath the whirl of light, keeping it from scattering, keeping it from drifting apart. It is a stillness that gives form, a silence that draws the pattern together, as though the dark itself were the frame that allows brightness to bloom. To imagine this shaping is to picture light as dancers upon a great floor, moving freely, but never without guidance. The black hole, silent in the center, is the music they cannot hear, the rhythm beneath their steps, keeping them circling, circling, without ever losing place. Without that center, the dance would fall apart, each light wandering aimlessly, the harmony dissolved. But with it, there is a quiet anchor, unseen, yet steady. A reminder that even brilliance leans upon darkness to find its path. The galaxies so vast and filled with stars are gathered and held by this quiet force, like a field of fireflies drifting in slow spirals, drawn by a current of air, too gentle to be felt, yet too constant to be denied. In this way, the black hole is not a destroyer, but a companion, giving structure to the very radiance it seems to consume. Its darkness is a cradle, a hollow, where motion can take shape, where orbits can find their rhythm. To gaze upon a galaxy and see its spiral arms is to see not only light, but also shadow, for without the shadow's embrace, the spiral would never be. It is balance as natural as the inhale that follows the exhale, as the night that follows the day. Darkness holds light the way the body holds breath quietly, without resistance, only letting it flow in its circle. The thought becomes gentler when pictured as a river turning around a hidden stone. The water does not see, the stone does not even touch it directly, yet its course bends because of it, shaping eddies, spirals, and currents. So too with the stars flowing, like rivers of fire, bending around hollows, unseen their dance determined by what lies silent at the heart. The galaxies shimmer because of what is not visible, the brightness arranged by the quiet weight that lies within. It is a partnership of opposites, each one incomplete without the other, each one giving meaning to the other's presence. The ancients, though they did not name these forces, carried echoes of such truths in their myths. They told of hidden powers that held the sky together, unseen gods, weaving order into the fabric of night. In these whispers of story can be heard the early sense of what would later be called gravity, the silent thread tying all things. To them, the dark was not only fearsome, it was also necessary, the stage upon which the stars could shine. And in their telling, one hears the same balance, that brightness cannot live without shadow, and that shadow itself is the keeper of brightness. The image of galaxies turning is softened when thought of as lanterns drifting upon a quiet sea, their reflections circling upon waters moved by an unseen tide. The lanterns shine, but it is the tide that keeps them in rhythm, each one guided gently, none falling astray. The black hole is that tide, unlit yet essential, giving the galaxies their spiral grace. Without it, the lights would scatter like sparks in the wind, lost and without return. With it, they gather into patterns that endure for eons, their orbits slow and calm, a harmony held in silence. And so, the presence of darkness becomes a lullaby, not a threat. It is the pause in the song, the breath between words, the cradle within which the radiance rests. To rest in this thought is to know that the universe itself sings not only in brilliance, but also in hush, not only in motion, but also in stillness. Black holes are not endings, but foundations, not monsters, but keepers, the dark companions that give the galaxies their form. The silence flows on, carrying this balance further, as though the same breath has leaned into another shade of stillness, the cosmos exhaling softly into its own rhythm. The flow of quiet deepens not as a change, but as the same breath stretching longer, leaning into another shade of stillness. In the wide expanse of the universe, darkness gathers, not in fragments, but as one folding together like strands of sound forming a deeper tone. Each black hole, each hollow, each silent cradle of light becomes part of a greater resonance, an invisible music carried through the fabric of space. It is not a music of notes that can be heard by the ear, but of movements of curves of gentle pulls and pauses, all combining into something steady. The effect is like the soft vibration of a string, plucked low humming beneath the brightness, unnoticed at first, yet always present, the foundation upon which all radiance can rest. This undertone is not harsh, but soothing, a constant breath beneath the louder voices of the stars. The galaxies swirl their arms bright and glittering, but beneath their light there is this deeper sound, the soundless hum of gravity binding them together. It does not shout, it does not demand, it lingers steady as the tide calm, as the air that fills the lungs shaping the dance of light without ever being seen. To imagine it is to picture a song sung slowly, its rhythm held in pauses, its beauty resting not in urgency, but in the patience of silence. When darkness combines, the sense is of an orchestra gathering each unseen hollow, a quiet instrument adding to the depth of the whole. Light becomes melody, sparkling and shifting, while shadow is the bass that holds the melody in place, the soft ground beneath the high notes. Without that ground, the sound would scatter. With it, the music finds balance. The stars may flare like violins and flutes, but the black holes are the cellos, the deep drums, the quiet hum that steadies the song. And so the universe itself becomes a composition not of light alone, but of light and dark, woven together, each breath of brightness, answered by a slower breath of shade. To the mind at rest, this music is like the ocean's lull, the waves rising and falling in rhythm, each crest followed by a trough, each silence part of the song. The unseen gravity wells ripple through space, as though strings had been touched their vibrations, sending waves, outward waves, not of sound but of fabric itself, spreading gently across the cosmos. These are the gravitational waves, but the term, though precise, is softened when imagined as ripples on a pond, circles spreading wide and faint, the water carrying them effortlessly into distance. They are reminders that even silence moves, even stillness breathes. Ancient voices spoke of similar rhythms in their myths, though in symbols rather than in science. In Japan, there were tales of Ryujin, the god of the sea, whose hand could stir the waters, with the faintest motion sending ripples far and wide. These ripples were not destruction, but presence reminders that the quiet depths could move with grace, that even the sea's stillness held hidden music. In such images, one can hear echoes of the universe itself, where the meeting of shadows stirs invisible waves, carrying a lullaby too deep for ears, yet felt in the very fabric of being. To think of the cosmos this way is to rest within its harmony. The night sky above is not random, not scattered, but composed, each flicker of light, balanced by a pocket of darkness, each bright flare steadied by a deeper hum. It is a music without beginning or end, as cyclical as breath, as unbroken as the turning of the seasons. To lie beneath it is to feel the body itself, align the heart, slow into its rhythm, the mind quieting as though soothed by the softest song. And so, the dark is not emptiness, but resonance. It is not silence alone, but the sound of silence stretched into form, carrying the radiance of the stars upon its patient shoulders. Each black hole is not a void, but a note, each pause a phrase, each ripple a movement in the slowest symphony ever played. To imagine this is to be carried by it, to drift upon its tide, to be cradled in its balance. The music does not end here. It only leans onward as though one breath has softened into the next, carrying the quiet further into another fold of night. The quiet deepens, leaning onward as though the same breath has only stretched a little further, carrying stillness into another fold of night. When thought turns to the dark hollows, the question rises softly, not in urgency, but like a ripple upon water. What lies within? A black hole, described in science as a singularity, is softened when imagined as a hidden chamber, a place where gravity gathers so deeply that even light must fold inward, resting as though in sleep. It is not seen, not touched, but pictured as a silent well in the fabric of the cosmos, a well without surface, without bottom, like a valley that deepens endlessly into shadow. To dwell upon this image is not to fear it, but to rest with it, as if the night sky itself has created a cradle where all brightness may eventually close its eyes. Some have spoken of it as a boundary called the event horizon, a word that in itself feels sharp but softened. It can be pictured as a horizon of twilight, a line across which the day simply gives way to night. Beyond that horizon, the path bends inward, a gentle slope where time itself seems to slow each moment, stretching like a breath held longer than the one before. The thought of it is not harsh, but tender, as though the cosmos has drawn a curtain, letting radiance slip quietly behind where it may rest unseen. What lies inside this curtain is not known, but imagination lingers there, weaving possibilities like dreams woven in the quiet before sleep. Some suggest that space folds so tightly that it ceases to be space, at all that time itself bends inward like a leaf curling upon water. Others wonder if what falls in may be carried elsewhere into another region of the universe, or even another universe entirely, like a river slipping underground and emerging in a far-off spring. Such thoughts are not certainties, but whispers, soft musings that settle the mind rather than press it. They remind that not all answers must be found, that some mysteries are meant to remain as gentle companions shaping wonder without demanding resolution. To imagine the inside of a black hole is to picture silence made solid, a chamber of night where the memory of fire lingers, but no flame remains. It is like the hollow of a shell, where sound once was now only echo, faint and endless, or like the heart of winter, where growth waits unseen, held in stillness until the return of spring. The unknown within is not an absence, but a pause, a resting place where the universe gathers itself in secrecy. And in that pause, the rhythm continues, balanced by what is hidden as much as by what shines. Ancient voices, though they had no names for such places, often dreamed of worlds hidden within worlds. Some myths spoke of caves that opened into endless night, others of oceans that sank into themselves, holding secrets too deep for surface eyes. These were not tales of destruction, but of hidden continuities, places where life and light were sheltered until they could return. To listen to such myths now is to hear the echo of the same question, what lies inside? The answer was not given. It was left to the silence, to the same breath that carries all questions softly into rest. The thought of such interiors, whether imagined as chambers, rivers, or cradles, carries a lesson of gentleness. It is enough to know that not all things are meant to be revealed, that the universe too keeps its private rooms, its folded spaces where time and light may rest unseen. To contemplate this is to feel the comfort of mystery, the way the mind feels when eyes close and dreams arrive unbidden and soft. Just as sleep holds the body in silence, so too do these hollows hold the cosmos, not with violence, but with calm inevitability. In this way, the inside of a black hole is less an answer than a reminder. It reminds that every flame has a shadow, every journey, a pause, every sound, a silence. The universe does not need to reveal its every depth. It offers instead a rhythm, a cycle of light and dark, of seen and unseen, of questions carried like lullabies across the night. To rest in that rhythm is to feel included, as though one's own breath has joined the larger breath of the cosmos, rising and falling with its tides. The silence leans on without break, as though the question itself has become part of the music, carried gently into the next fold of night. The hush that carried the thought before does not end here. It leans gently onward, as though one breath has only lengthened, carrying silence into another fold of night. There is a place in the cosmos where light so constant and sure in its flight comes to a pause. It is called by science the event horizon, but it may be pictured more tenderly as a horizon of dusk, a line where radiance slows and folds into rest. To the eye, it cannot be seen, for nothing escapes to be shown. And yet in imagination, it is easy to sense a threshold, not sharp, but softened like the edge of twilight, blending sky and shadow. Across this threshold, the path curves inward, not in haste, but as though the light itself has grown tired, finding a cradle within the deepening night. This horizon is not a wall, not a barrier struck against, but more like a shoreline where the sea meets sand, a place of surrender rather than of conflict. Here beams of light trace their last arcs, bending, leaning, and finally slipping away, as if laying themselves down into slumber. The pause is not sudden, but gentle, like the way evening settles over day, quieting colors into grays, inviting rest rather than forcing it. In this way, the boundary becomes less a limit and more a soft veil where brightness closes its eyes and darkness hums a low song. The event horizon, softened in thought, feels less like an end and more like an embrace. It is the place where the universe draws a curtain, not to hide, but to let light sleep, just as the body closes its eyelids at night, drawing the world into stillness. So too does the black hole gather the beams into its invisible chamber, folding them away until they can no longer be traced. The gesture is quiet, almost tender, reminding that even the swiftest and brightest must at some time release their momentum and rest. In older tales, horizons were places of mystery, where oceans touch the edge of the world, or where mountains kiss the sky. To stand at such edges was to feel both wonder and calm, for beyond them lay what could not be seen, but only imagined. The event horizon may be thought of in the same way, not as a line of loss, but as a border of transformation. What passes beyond is not gone, but hidden, tucked beneath a veil, just as the sun slipping beneath the horizon is not extinguished, but only out of sight, waiting for another dawn. To picture this boundary is to picture a breath held long, the chest rising, but not yet falling, suspended in a quiet balance. It is not frightening, this breath, but soothing, for it teaches patience, showing that even in the most powerful motions of the cosmos, there is pause, there is rhythm, there is rest. The event horizon becomes the soft exhale of the stars, their final shimmer bending inward, their radiance sinking into a deeper silence. Though no eye can look beyond, the imagination rests there content, not to know but simply to sense. The truth of what lies past the horizon remains folded away, and that very folding becomes its beauty. Not all doors need to open. Some are meant to remain closed, offering peace instead of answers. In this way, the horizon is a lesson in quietude, reminding that mystery itself can soothe, that not all questions must stir the mind, that some may instead lull it like a low tide smoothing the shore. In the long rhythm of the universe, the event horizon is a note of rest, a pause, written into the music of existence. Without it, the melody would rush on endlessly, breathless and uneven. With it, the cosmos inhales and exhales evenly, balancing brightness with shadow motion, with stillness, presence with absence. The horizon is not an end, but a balance, a turning of the page in the book of night, slow and unhurried. To rest with this image is to feel the universe lean close, whispering softly that even light has its boundaries, even radiance has its veils, and that in those veils lies not fear but calm. The event horizon becomes not a threat, but a lullaby sung in silence, carrying the thought that every journey, no matter how swift, has a place where it slows, pauses, and folds itself into night. The quiet continues unbroken, carrying its breath deeper, as though one shade of stillness has leaned naturally into the next. The stillness that carried the thought before does not break. It only leans gently into another fold, as though the same breath has stretched longer, moving calmly into the next shade of night. There is a quiet idea held softly in the mind of science, yet spoken here as though it were a lullaby, that in the earliest moments of the cosmos, small shadows may have been born. They are called primordial black holes, but they may be imagined more tenderly as ancient seeds of darkness scattered like hidden grains across the newborn sky. These seeds were not vast in size, not like the giants that dwell at the hearts of galaxies, but delicate and elusive, like dust motes glimmering in a shaft of light, present yet nearly unseen. If they existed, they would have drifted quietly from the very beginning, carried along with the expansion of the universe, like tiny boats upon an endless tide. To rest with a thought of such seeds is to picture the universe itself as a garden, not of flowers or trees, but of shadows taking root. Each seed would be a pocket where gravity curled inward, where space bent softly into a hollow so slight that only the faintest touch of starlight could reveal it. The image is not one of force or violence, but of patience, of tiny wells opening in the vast sea of creation, each one a pause in the radiant song of the cosmos. These wells, if they were real, would not shout their presence, but hum silently, blending into the fabric of night. In this imagining, the seeds of darkness serve a role as gentle as it is hidden. They may have gathered dust and lightless matter, pulling them inward, giving the universe its earliest patterns of texture and form. Without them, the stars might have wandered longer. Before finding their places, the galaxies might have taken more time to swirl into their spirals. With them, the rhythm of growth may have been steadier, as though the cosmos had been given quiet anchors to hold its first breaths. The seeds were not visible, but they may have been necessary, offering resting points where the infinite expanse could fold itself inward as naturally as lungs fold air into their chambers. The image is softened further when one thinks of them not as black holes, but as cradles of stillness. They are like the first shadows cast at twilight, faint and uncertain, yet part of the rhythm that lets the day lean into night. To imagine them is to feel the balance between brightness and darkness written into the universe from the beginning, as though the cosmos itself understood that no flame could burn without pause, no song could continue without silence between its notes. The primordial seeds become symbols of this truth, reminders that even at the very start, the night was already present, waiting to join the dance of stars. In old tales, beginnings were often told not as explosions, but as quiet emergences from hidden places. The Egyptians once said that the world rose from a dark sea, silent and still, until the first god stepped forth. This sea of darkness feels much like the soil in which primordial seeds might have been planted, a fertile silence from which form could rise. The myths and the science, though different in their words, lean toward the same picture creation as a balance of presence and absence of light unfolding from shadow of something emerging from stillness. To dream of primordial seeds is to rest within this balance, to hear the echo of both myth and knowledge as a single, slow breath. The seeds, whether real or only imagined, remind that the universe carries memory within silence. Their invisibility is part of their essence, for what cannot be seen can still be felt, just as the pause between breaths can still be heard in the rhythm of the body. They are whispers in the fabric of existence, not demanding attention, not dazzling the eye, but steady, ancient, and calm. To think of them is not to stir anxiety, but to ease it, for they show that even in the vastness, there are small hidden places where everything slows, where motion rests, where silence has its home. And so, the thought drifts on without urgency, without need of proof, carrying the sense that from the very first, the cosmos was never only a blaze of fire, but also a scattering of shadows. These seeds of night, folded gently into the dawn of creation, may still drift with us now, quiet companions unseen. They are reminders that balance has always been part of existence, that light is never alone, that every beginning carries within it a resting place. The hush leans onward, seamless and calm, as though the same breath has deepened again, carrying thought into another shade of stillness. The breath of silence does not break. It only leans onward, as though night itself has deepened a little further, carrying thought into another gentle fold. Among the quiet imaginings of the cosmos, there lingers the vision of pairs, one answering the other, one balancing what the other creates. In the wide fabric of the universe, darkness and light are not opposites to be fought, but companions to be carried side by side, each giving the other meaning, each allowing the rhythm to flow. The idea of the black hole has always evoked the thought of vanishing of brightness, folding into silence, but alongside it whispers the dream of something opposite, something like a white hole, imagined as a fountain of light, a place where matter does not fall inward, but streams outward like a spring at dawn. Together, they form a pair not certain in reality, but steady in imagination, like two notes in the same slow song. The black hole is pictured as a deep well, a hollow where gravity is so complete that even light cannot climb away, a cradle that holds radiance within its silent embrace. The white hole, by contrast, is imagined as its twin, but reversed, a place where nothing can enter, where instead streams of light and matter are given out, as if the universe itself were exhaling through hidden lips. If one is the inward breath, the other is the outward one, gathering the other, releasing one, a pause of silence, the other, a soft return. Though the existence of such white holes remains uncertain, their thought adds a gentle balance, suggesting that every inward curve may have its outward unfolding, every lull its awakening, every shadow its glow. To rest with this idea is to picture the universe as a great cycle of inhaling and exhaling, as natural as the tide, as patient as the seasons. The black hole becomes the night, drawing its curtain, while the white hole becomes the dawn, lifting it once more. Neither can be whole without the other, for night needs morning to complete its rhythm, just as morning leans on night for its own rest. The pairing does not need to be proven to be soothing. It is enough that the mind can hold the thought like holding two halves of a breath in the chest, the inward and the outward, the dark and the luminous. In this pairing there lies a deep sense of symmetry. The black hole is the valley shadowed, and still the white hole is the peak gleaming and open, yet both belong to the same landscape. The valley allows the mountain to rise, and the mountain allows the valley to sink, and together they form the horizon. So too in this imagined balance, the dark wells and the bright fountains shape the cosmos not as enemies, but as companions in the same quiet geometry. Even if no eye has ever seen such a white hole, its thought drifts beside that of the black hole like a reflection that makes the image complete. Ancient voices often told of such pairings, though in their own symbols and myths. In some tales, darkness was pictured as a dragon swallowing the sun, while light was the rebirth of the star from the dragon's mouth. In others, the night sky was described as a bowl turned upside down, while the day was its inside turned out. These myths carried the same rhythm, that where there is an inward turning, there must also be an outward. Where there is concealment, there will also be revelation. The science of black and white holes softened into imagery feels much like these older whispers, as though the universe itself has always sung of pairs. The comfort in such an image lies not in its certainty, but in its balance. To think of black and white holes is not to dwell on what cannot be entered or what may never exist, but to feel the sense that the cosmos move in twos, in cycles, in complements. The black hole is the silence between heartbeats, the white hole, the beat that returns. The black hole is the night sky's deep pause, the white hole the shimmer of dawn breaking through. Neither is whole alone, but together they tell of a universe that breathes. And so the pair lingers, in thought, black and white, inward and outward, shadow and light. They are not monsters or miracles, but gentle ideas, steady in their symmetry, soothing in their balance. To close the eyes and imagine them is to rest in the rhythm of opposites, joined to the lull of inhaling, met by the ease of exhaling, the cradle of night answered by the bloom of morning. The silence leans onward, slow and unbroken, as though the same breath has found another depth, carrying the rhythm into yet another shade of stillness. The rhythm does not end. It only leans more deeply, as though night itself has settled further into its own silence, carrying thought into another shade of rest. The mystery of black holes remains open, not like a locked chamber, but like a horizon, wide and unending, where the eye can look yet never reach. To imagine them is to linger at the edge of knowing, where the language of science folds into the hush of wonder, where each explanation is softened by what cannot yet be explained. They are both clear and hidden, described as wells of gravity, yet always veiled, always carrying more than what is spoken. And in this openness lies their quiet power, for they are never complete to the mind, but always unfolding like a song that hums softly without a final note. To think of such mystery is not to feel unsettled, but to feel carried, as if the vastness itself were cradling the thought. The black hole remains unseen, yet its influence is traced in the bending of starlight, in the circles of stars, moving around emptiness, in the ripples of gravity that travel through space like waves across water. Each of these signs is delicate, subtle, yet enough to remind that the unseen is real, that silence can shape motion, that absence can guide presence, and still questions linger unanswered and unhurried, like seeds not yet ready to bloom, waiting in the soil of time. The openness of the unknown is itself like a lullaby. It does not resolve, it does not rush to clarity. It rests in suspension, allowing the mind to wander gently without needing to arrive. Just as the breath does not demand to be held forever, but flows in cycles, so too does this mystery ask nothing more than patience, nothing more than quiet curiosity. Each thought of what lies within each, wondering about what lies beyond, is softened by the understanding that not all truths must be reached at once. Some truths remain hidden, and in their hiddenness, they soothe, for they remind that there is always more night to unfold, always more silence to listen to. Ancient voices once sang of mysteries in the same way, not with answers, but with stories. To them, darkness was a companion, not fully known, but deeply present, like the ocean at night or the forest before dawn. They spoke of creatures that swallowed light of gods, who carried stars into shadow of rivers, flowing unseen beneath the world. These tales were not certainties, but offerings of rhythm, reminders that the unknown is as much a part of life as the known. And so, even now, when the black hole is spoken of, with equations and instruments, the old lullaby of mystery continues beneath humming, in the same key as before. The open question of what lies within a black hole is one that drifts without hurry. Some imagine singularities, places where time itself folds inward. Others picture pathways to other regions of space. Still others rest in the thought of pure silence, where no flame and no shadow can reach. Each vision is only a suggestion, like a faint constellation traced in the sky, clear, yet always incomplete. None of them need to be final, for the mystery does not ask to be closed. It asks only to be held like a note that lingers in the air, neither ending nor breaking, simply continuing in stillness. In this way, the mystery itself becomes a companion, a gentle reminder that not knowing is also part of the balance. To live with the unknown is like living with the night. Not everything can be seen, but everything can be felt in the rhythm of breathing, in the stillness that rests between thoughts. The unanswered question is like the silence between heartbeats, not empty, but essential, giving shape to the rhythm of what is known. And in that silence, the mind is soothed, the body relaxes, and the breath finds its slower pace. Thus, the black hole, though studied and described, remains wrapped in openness, its heart hidden, its nature never fully told. This openness is not a failure, but a gift, for it allows imagination to wander, it allows wonder to remain alive, it allows the lullaby of the cosmos to continue without closure. The mystery hums like a background note, low and steady, reminding that the universe is not a finished song, but one that plays endlessly, soft and unfinished, carrying the listener deeper into rest. And so the mystery remains not closed, but open, not solved, but continuing like a lullaby that drifts on without an ending. It is a song still being sung, a breath still being drawn, a silence still unfolding. To rest in it is to accept that the universe is larger, than knowing, softer than certainty, and more patient than any question. And in that resting, the mind too becomes quiet, carried into sleep by a melody that has no final chord, only the endless reassurance of a night that still sings. The stillness stretches further, not as a break, but as the same breath continuing, carrying thought into yet another shade of quiet. The silence does not stop. It only drifts further, as though one long exhale has found another moment to rest, carrying the thought gently into a deeper fold of calm. The universe turns with steadiness, its motion wide and unbroken, a rhythm so vast that no ear can hear it, yet present as surely as the pulse of a sleeping body. To imagine galaxies wheeling slowly is to imagine great lanterns drifting across a lake without shore, their reflections trembling upon invisible water, circling without haste, without end. Each movement is drawn not by urgency, but by balance, the kind of balance that holds night and day in their cycle, the kind of balance that carries breath in and out, never ceasing, always returning. And in this balance, the darkness is not apart from the light, but is the quiet hand, guiding it, shaping its path without sound, holding the dance of the sky together. At the heart of this quiet guidance are the black holes, distant and unassuming, scattered like deep wells across the fabric of the cosmos. They are not threats lurking in the dark, but natural presences, no more menacing than the still depths of an ocean or the shaded silence beneath a forest canopy. Their gravity is a pull, but that pull can be pictured not as force but as rest, as if the universe itself had leaned upon its own fabric, leaving impressions where weight has settled. These impressions do not break the pattern. They help to hold it, keeping the galaxies gathered, keeping the stars in orbit, keeping the cosmic rhythm steady. To think of them is to think not of danger, but of structure, of the unseen stitches that keep the cloth of night from unraveling. The image softens further when pictured as a great heart, silent but enduring, beating slowly beneath the veil of stars. Each black hole is such a heart, not heard, not seen, but steady, pulsing in its own silence, holding together the flow around it. Our own Milky Way carries such a heart at its center, a black hole vast enough to gather the stars of the galaxy into their long circling paths. It does not roar, it does not shine, it only rests a still point in the turning of the sky. Like a drum hidden beneath layers of song, it keeps the rhythm without calling attention to itself, a foundation upon which all else may move. To dwell upon this is to feel the reassurance of cycles. Stars may flare and fade, galaxies may wander, but beneath these shifting surfaces lies the deeper pattern drawn by the presence of the quiet wells. The black holes do not destroy the rhythm, they preserve it, allowing the universe to turn with grace. Even light that most untouchable of companions bends toward them, tracing arcs around their presence as though bowing in recognition. Yet the bow is not surrender. It is part of the balance part of the geometry that keeps the vastness ordered. The night sky, when seen with such awareness, is not a scattering of chance, but a composition, each flame of a star set upon the page by both brightness and shadow together. The thought rests, and with it the breath slows, for to sense such balance is to feel that there is no rush, no loss, only continuation. The universe does not move with alarm, but with patience, with long stretches of quiet, with turns that last beyond measure. In that patience, the black holes appear as guardians of rhythm, shaping, without sound, their silence deeper than speech, their presence calmer than any flame. They are like the pauses in music, without which melody cannot breathe, or the darkness of sleep, without which waking cannot shine. Their existence is not a break in the order, but the very thing that gives order its strength. Myths, too, carried this softness, though their words were woven differently. Some spoke of hidden rivers beneath the world's silent currents that held the land afloat. Others imagined the sky resting upon the shoulders of unseen giants, their stillness keeping the heavens from falling. And in these tales, there lies an echo of what black holes truly are: invisible, supports unseen companions, essential presences that never demand attention. They do not need to be named to be real, and they do not need to be seen to be felt. In their silence, they mirror the truth that not all that is vital must be visible. The rhythm of the cosmos continues, and with it, the sense of lull deepens. One may picture the black holes as distant wells into which even light may fold, yet these wells are not voids, but cradles. They do not take without giving. They offer the structure that holds galaxies together, the hidden gravity that keeps the great wheel turning. To imagine them as monsters is to imagine shadows without balance, but the truth is softer, more like roots beneath a tree unseen, but carrying the weight unseen, but feeding the whole. The galaxy breathes because its heart beats silently, and the night shines because the darkness holds it steady. Breath itself becomes the image of this balance. Inhale, and the chest fills with light. Exhale, and it folds back into shadow. Neither is complete without the other. Neither is fearful. Both are natural. Both are needed. The universe breathes in stars, breathes out shadows, breathes in galaxies, breathes out the wells that hold them. And so the black holes may be thought of as part of this breath, the long exhale that allows the cosmos to rest before it rises again. Without the exhale, there could be no inhale. Without the pause, there could be no rhythm. In this way, the black holes are lullabies, not warnings. They are the gentle hush that comes after sound, the quiet lap of the tide after the wave has broken the shade that falls across the earth before the next morning light. To rest with them is to rest with the sense that the universe itself is not hurried, that it moves in cycles broader than comprehension, that it carries both radiance and stillness in equal measure. The darkness is not against the light, it is with it, holding it, shaping it, keeping it safe within the turning of the night. The final image softens into the heart of the sky itself, vast and silent, beating with patience across ages, never hurried, never loud. The black holes are that heart, the unseen presence that keeps all else in motion, not by force, but by stillness, not by noise, but by quiet weight. They remind that even in the greatest expanse, there is a center, and in that center, there is calm. The stars may shine and fade, the galaxies may spin and scatter, but the heart continues deep and unmoved, carrying the rhythm onward. And so, the lull closes, not with ending, but with rest. The universe continues to turn vast and serene breathing through the presence of its silent wells. The black holes, far and hidden, are not to be feared but to be trusted, for they keep the rhythm steady. They hold the balance unbroken. They remind that every flame has a resting place. They are the quiet guardians of the cosmic breath, the gentle keepers of stillness, the deep heart of the night sky, and in their presence one may sleep, one may rest, one may be carried by the lullaby of darkness that is never harsh, but always tender. The breath lengthens once more, and the voice of the cosmos whispers its final cradle song. Sleep softly in the arms of the night, for the darkness is not empty, it is full, it is kind, it is the heart that holds the universe steady.